Hello, this is Angelia, and you are listening to or watching the podcast, Why You Do What You Do. The podcast that talks about human development and psychology to hopefully help you figure out maybe a little bit more about why you do what you do. And last time we were talking about sibling relationships, and we're going to take up again on that. In a poor agricultural or pastoral community, older siblings have an important culturally defined role. And, idyllically, you don't have your older kids raising your younger kids because they should be allowed to be children as well. Now, in these societies, it works out because, they're teaching the younger kid how to do things. But generally, that means they miss out on, some of the childhood that they should have got to have. Parents train children early to teach younger sisters and brothers how to gather firewood, carry water, tend animals, and grow food. So instead of getting to play as much as the younger kids might get to, their job is to be a teacher. And that actually a lot of oldest children end up being a teacher of some sort because they were, kind of trained to do that from a young age. Younger siblings absorb intangible values such as respecting elders and placing the welfare of the group above that of the individual. So in these societies, when everybody needs to work together to survive, they learn that that's a value. That being just all about me and being, selfish or whatever doesn't really help everyone. And women, we learn this a little sooner than guys do, that the group does better if we all kind of look out for each other. Now, having said that, women are actually meaner to each other than men are to each other. Women can get catty and passive aggressive, and just get downright nasty to each other. And that is something that the patriarchal society has kind of developed in females. Because before that, we would cooperate, we would, do things together and help each other. But when men became a priority and snagging a good husband became something that was desirable, then women felt like they had to be in competition with each other. And then once women started getting into the workplace, even more so, women felt like they needed to be in competition with each other. So it went from being a cooperative thing between women to being a competitive thing between women, like it has always been with men. So, unfortunately, women are becoming less cooperative and more competitive. And in my opinion, that doesn't bode well for society. Siblings may fight and compete, but they do so within societal rules and roles. And that's in those communities where, there are certain rules, there are roles that women and men have to play. And, I felt like that was always kind of a thing, that women were playing these roles because that's not really how they wanted to be. That was just their role in that society, and as societies have changed, more and more women are able to have their own lives and contribute to society in a way that's fulfilling to them. Often teaching arises spontaneously as older siblings care for the younger. They might be wanting to do something and the older kid says, no, here's how you do that, and teaches them how to do that. Or, they're lost in something and they're like, well, here's what you do, so it's not something that, they plan out. The child just helps the younger child to do a thing that they're wanting to do or need to do. In an ethnographic study of 72 Mayan children and their 2-year-old younger siblings in a highland village in Mexico, The older ones taught the younger ones how to do such everyday tasks as washing, cooking, taking care of baby dolls, and making tortillas, all in the context of play. So, they were playing, but they were doing these important skills that they would need in order to step into a role in their society. The older children's teaching skills increased so that by age 8, there were older children, they were able to use a combination of techniques: showing, telling, explaining, manual guidance, scaffolding, and giving verbal feedback. So they were able, within this time period, to learn these teaching skills that if they were not in such a pastoral society, they could put to work in the workforce and be a teacher or daycare worker or whatever. So these skills will also come into play when they have their own children, and they need to teach their children how to do things. Thus, older siblings participate in socializing the younger ones in culturally important tasks. You might have learned something from your older sibling. I didn't have an older sibling. I'm the oldest. So, but they might have taught you how to do something or helped you, do something that you wanted to do. So the oldest sibling plays an important role in the family dynamic, especially if you're in a more traditional pastoral setting where you need to learn these roles in order to take your place in society. In industrialized societies, such as the United States, parents generally try not to burden older children with the care of younger ones. And of course, that all depends on the household. At one point, my mother and father were divorced for several years. And my mother wanted to get the night differential pay, so she worked nights, and after school I was tasked with watching the younger ones. Like I said, at the age of 6, I was changing diapers and giving bottles and things of that nature, because I had a little sister who was 5 years younger than me, so that was something that I had to do, and it was stressful as a young child, especially, I had a younger brother. I still have a younger brother, hey. But he was, only 18 months younger than me. So he was closer to my age. He was a little more rambunctious being a boy. And I had experienced some slaps a few times for waking her up. Because I was the oldest, I should have known better, should have put a stop to it, so that told me I had to discipline my little brother and sister, and of course that's the last thing you want to do as a kid. They're your built-in friends. You don't want to be like that. But in order to keep us all safer, I felt the need to do that. So be careful the positions you put your children in, because that's going to affect them, and their relationships for the rest of their lives. Although some caretaking takes place, it is generally sporadic. And like in the summertime, we would be shipped over to my maternal grandmother's, and on holidays. That didn't work out so well either, for me especially. And then later on, when my father and mother got remarried, we were taken to the paternal grandmother. That worked out a little better. There wasn't as much bad stuff going on over there, but it was still kind of a negative environment. Older siblings do teach younger ones, but this usually happens by chance and not as an established part of their social system. So in industrialized countries, most of the time, older children are not expected to watch and take care of younger children. Now, in poorer homes, that is more common. If the mom has to work or be gone or whatever, the oldest child is expected to take care of the younger children. I've seen many homes where that was the case. And I kind of have cautioned parents on, that. And, I let my, once they all got to be teenagers, I would work a few more hours, try to make a little more money, and, let the older ones be a guidance to the younger one. But like I said, he was, a teenager, so he still kind of knew his own mind, and, usually it worked out. The number of siblings in a family and their spacing, birth order, and gender often determine roles and relationships. Because in modern society, supposedly, men and women should be equal. You have an equal chance to go out and do what you want to do and have the life you want to do. I used to work at a daycare, and these were usually professional couples, because I worked at high-end daycare out in the, expensive end of town. And they were usually doctors and lawyers, doctors and nurse, two nurses in one case, two lawyers in one case, different administrators and, different lawyers. And so these couples, they were both doing their life and having life and bringing their child to daycare during the day, and then they pick the child up, after work. The daycare closed, at 6 o'clock, so they'd have somebody come pick the child up at 6 o'clock. And in several instances, we had a grandma, that would come and pick up a kid, or an aunt who would come and pick up a kid, because the parents didn't get off in time to come pick up the kid. But the goal was to have all the kids out by 6 o'clock so that we could go home and have our dinner and be with our families. So the larger number of siblings in non-industrialized societies helps the family carry on its work and provide for aging members. Because in non-industrialized societies, they pretty much all kind of live together in one house for life, really. So the younger ones can help with the older ones, and it makes less of a burden on the middle generation, like the sandwich generation. Like I said, we're kind of in the sandwich generation, me and my husband. He's helping take care of an elderly mother. I have an elderly father that, is pretty independent. I'm thankful for that, because I only have to come help him out every now and then with, doing things and getting things, and, I'm happy to do that. He worked all his life to provide a home for us and everything, so even, though there's some problems there in the relationship, I don't mind doing that for him, because, he did for us, so in those societies, it's a little easier, like my children will step in if we ask them to, but they don't feel obliged, and one of mine, he's really good about that. So in industrialized societies, siblings tend to be fewer and further apart in age, making it easier for parents to pursue careers or other interests, and to focus more resources and attention on each child, because each child is unique and individual, and they should be treated that way. They should be raised that way. They should be having their interests fostered. There's no such thing as the cookie cutter, family where they're all the same. That's, a fantasy. Excuse me. So each child should be nourished in all the ways they need to be nourished, and raised to be who they are. Not who you want them to be, but who they are. 2 longitudinal studies, one in England and one in Pennsylvania, based on naturalistic observation of siblings and mothers and interviews with the mothers, found that changes in sibling relationships were most likely to occur when one sibling was between ages 7 and 9. Both mothers and children often attributed these changes to outside friendships, which led to jealousy and competitiveness or loss of interest in and intimacy with the sibling. So, the kids go to school and they have other friends. And, like one child might be popular and one child might not be. So the popular one might not want to be seen hanging around with the unpopular kid, or, vice versa. They might have an attitude, the one that's not so popular might have an attitude about hanging around with the one that is popular. It's like, so, there are lots of different dynamics in sibling relationships. Sometimes the younger siblings' growing assertiveness played a part, because some older siblings, want to be the boss, they're in charge, especially if they're having to help take care of the child. So the younger siblings saying, no, I'm going to do my thing my way, that might be considered a threat, a little disobedience there. So, that might be an issue that kids might have. Sibling relations are a laboratory for conflict resolution, because that's our goal in life when we have conflict, is to resolve it. It's not to, beat the other person down to a pulp. It's not to, have a war. It's to resolve the conflict. There's always a answer to a conflict that's not violent, you got to talk it out. Siblings are impelled to make up after quarrels, since they know they will see each other every day, because you can't get away from them. They live in your house. You could stay away from a friend or not hang around with them anymore, but that brother or sister is going to be in your house every day. So it behooves you to make peace and get along with them because they're there every day. They learn that expressing anger does not end a relationship, and it shouldn't. You should be able to express yourself. You should be able to fight fairly, to get your needs met. There shouldn't have to be the ending of a relationship just because that's not bugging me, Jesus. Oh my gosh, there's a little gnat in here. It shouldn't be the end of a relationship just because you're fighting. You should be able to work that out, talk about it, come back better, and move on. Children are more apt to squabble with same-sex siblings. Two brothers quarrel more than any other combination. And that's because, they're kind of, if you've ever had a litter of kittens or puppies and they start growing up before they, let's see how to put this nicely, get neutered, there's some male aggression there. They want to fight each other and they want to be the top one. So brothers kind of do this with each other. That's, unfortunately a throwback from back in the day. Excuse me. Where, it was for the survival of the species. But it's no longer for that. So we need to try to get along with our siblings. We're not vying for who's going to be the next tribal leader in our family. So, Siblings influence each other not only directly through their own interactions, but indirectly through their impact on each other's relationship with the parents. And sometimes that can get a bit dodgy. Sometimes there are tattletales, or there are people who rely on one kid or another and say, they did this, they did that, when, they did that or whatever. There is some attention-seeking behavior among children. I think we all know that, where siblings will kind of backbite on each other and, lie on each other and do things, to manipulate the parents. I think we all have experienced such things. Conversely, behavior patterns established with parents tend to spill over into behavior with siblings. So, again, children learn what they live. If the siblings are seeing mom and dad, being abusive towards each other, they're more likely to be abusive towards each other. So, Think about what you're saying and doing in front of the little kids if you want them to get along with each other. An older child's positive relationship with the mother or father can mitigate the effects of that child's difficult temperament on sibling interactions. So if they get along well with the parents, but they don't get along well with the brother or sister, oh my, that can help them stay out of trouble. The child in the peer group. In the preschool years, children play together, but in the school years, the peer group comes into its own. Because as we know, that was an important thing, is that you had friends, that you like your friends, because that became the new group you were in, the new group you latched onto is the next stage of your life. Groups form naturally among children who live near each other or go to school together, because of course you're there with each other every day. If you're playing out in the neighborhood, these are the kids who are nearby. If you go to school together, ride the bus, or wait at the bus stop, these are the kids that you deal with and see every day. So they're the most likely to become your friends. Children who play together, oh my, are usually close in socioeconomic status and age, though a neighborhood play group may include mixed ages. We all know there were older kids in our neighborhood that we played with, or that were not so nice to us, and picked on us because we were playing with their little brother or sister or whatever. So that's not a great dynamic. You want the kids to be with kids their own age. You don't want a lot of older kids being around younger kids, because stuff happens, and accidents can happen, or even bad things can happen. So kind of be aware of what's going on with your kids, whose house they're at, who they're playing with, and is the parent present, or is there an older brother or sister? Kind of keep an eye on things, and what are they like? And because your child's safety should be your first priority. Too wide an age range brings differences, not only in size, but in interests and ability levels. And I remember that from being at the playground, and there was a girl who had an older sister, and she would make fun of us for not being able to do this or that, or climb the monkey bars to the top, and laugh at us and stuff. So like I said, it's important that your children be with people their own age. Oh, excuse me. And that everyone is safe. Groups are usually all girls or all boys. And that's to start with. It's like I say, everyone goes through a homosexual phase where all you want to play with. And when I say that, I'm not talking about having sex. I'm talking about where you want to be with the same sex that you are. The other sex is yucky, gross, they got cooties. You don't want to be with them. That won't come till later on. Children of the same sex have common interests. Girls are generally more mature than boys. And girls and boys play and talk to one another differently. And of course, we girls knew that. Sorry, guys, but it's a fact. Girls are better off playing with girls when they're young, and boys playing with boys, because they do have differences. There's more rough and tumble play between boys, more dirty play between boys. And girls play is a lot about fantasizing and pretending, and it's really kind of a practice for their future. All little girls are dreaming about their Prince Charming and their wedding, and my house is going to look like this, and boys are like digging in the dirt with their trucks. So now I had a truck when I was younger, and I drove my little plastic animals around in it, but in general we're different. So respect those differences. Don't force them to do anything, and don't discourage them. If you got a boy that likes to play with dolls, or a girl likes to play with trucks, don't discourage that. Let them do their own thing, because the worst thing you can do is make your child feel ashamed of being who they are. Same-sex groups help children to learn gender appropriate behaviors and to incorporate gender roles into their self concept. Because the boys should know that if you run up and smack the girl, she's probably going to cry. She's not probably going to say, hey, and chase you back like boys do. I've seen my boys and their little cousins and everything. That's the thing. Run up and push each other, and then they chase around. Whereas if you do that to the girl, she's probably going to cry or fall on the floor, and, then you're going to have to be explained to them, boys don't hit girls. Boys don't shove girls. That's mean. That's not nice, because you're bigger and stronger than they are. And at that point in time, you're probably not. That doesn't start happening until high school. Usually in middle school, the girls are bigger and stronger than the boys. But it will happen eventually. And you need to teach the boys to respect the ladies. We are smaller, usually. And we don't have the musculature as much as they do, because we're made, genetically to be softer, so that we can carry the child in our softer body and protect it, and that's just the facts of life there. That's just how we're wired. As children begin to move away from parental influence, the peer group opens new perspectives and frees them to make independent judgments. So whereas before it's all what mom or dad or grandma or grandpa said, it now becomes more about what they want and what their friends want. Okay, I'm back. Testing values they previously accepted unquestioningly against those of their peers helps them decide which to keep and which to discard. Because as we all know, our parents all had values and beliefs. And we might not subscribe to all of those. So when we go out and talk to our peers, we can see how other people believe and what they value, and we might decide we might agree more with them than we do with the parents. So that's where some, family squabbles can happen. Is because they believe a certain way, and the peer group might not feel that way, and that can sow a little discord in the family. In comparing themselves with others their age, children can gauge their abilities more realistically and gain a clearer sense of self-efficacy. Because you might have parents that, say you're not good at anything. You might have parents say you're really good at everything. They may be overestimating, and the other parents might be underestimating. So by how your peers feel about you, it's easier for you to gauge, whether you're competent or incompetent. And, that can actually help you if other kids think you're good at doing something or like what you're doing. If you're not coming up in the best family situation, that can actually help you. The peer group helps children learn how to get along in society, how to adjust their needs and desires to those of others, when to yield, and when to stand firm. Because we're all going to have to live in a society, so it's good that we learn from other children how to get along with people in society. And now I have advocated for homeschooling and not letting little people out amongst other little peoples, because kids are mean. But if they're in a good peer group, like I said, if you take them out and socialize them, it is helpful for them to learn how to get along with other people in society. But also, it can set them up for early disappointments and early, problems in their behaviors and relationships to others. So it's kind of a mixed school of thought on that one. The peer group also can have negative effects. Like anything else, there are positives and there are negatives. It is usually in the company of peers that children shoplift, begin to use drugs, and act in other antisocial ways. Because so-and-so did it, they think it's cool, and they're going to do it. There were some kids in my neighborhood who were shoplifting from a convenience store. There was a convenience store where they had like the candy bins, and these kids would go in and they would just start shoveling candy into their bins and then take off running. And you know, of course that's not cool. I didn't do it. Now I happened to be in the store one day when they were doing it, and uh, I was told, hey, you're gonna. I was like, no, I'm not with them. Yeah, well, they was talking to you. You must know that. Well, okay, yeah, I know there are kids in the neighborhood, but I'm here buying something for my parents. They gave me the money to do it, and don't lump me in with them guys. But you know, sometimes guilt by association happens. And that's where I'm gonna leave you today. So hopefully that helped you figure out a little bit more about why you do what you do, maybe. Until next time.